lounging, son.
All right, welcome back to the Comic Lounge. My name's Ryan, and not with me today is my boy Dylan. If any of you guys have been listening the past few weeks, Dylan is going to be a dad soon, but that's not the reason he's not with me today. He just got called into work. Between me switching jobs, switching our schedules around, this was kind of hectic to kind of coordinate. Hopefully this will be the only time we have to do this, but I figured, why not still at least give my thoughts on the books, even though Dylan couldn't be with me. I know he wanted to. I know we would have had a lot to say about these books together, but I didn't want to go a week without being able to at least talk about these books a little bit. So the books I'm going to share my thoughts on: Infinite Frontier 6, Excellence 11, Mazebook number 1, which wasn't one of our reads, but I decided to switch this in for another book, and Kazar, Lord of the Savage Land. Let me jump in first with Infinite Frontier number 6, the conclusion to Joshua Williamson's epic DC mini event, whatever you want to call it, just mini series, kind of leading into some other stuff that's going to happen. Only one artist is joining him on this. That's Zermanico, and Romulo Fajardo Jr. is the colorist, and Tom Napolitano is lettering. I've been singing the praises. I'm just going to wrap it up. I'm not going to spend a ton of time talking about the book. I think it ended really well, and we'll get into that. And just, FYI, since I am going through the book, guys, and I'm going through the rest of the books, there will probably be spoilers because I'm literally showing you the comic. It's not the normal thing where I normally am, throwing up images based on like what we're discussing in the book. So if you don't want to be spoiled for any of these books, you haven't had a chance to pick up your books from the shop this week, I guess only listen to the audio version of this, which is on Podbean, Spotify, and iTunes, all that good stuff. So I'm going to just jump into this and kind of discuss. The Flash appears in every single crisis level event, and this one is no different. Barry was, investigating the murders on Earth Omega, which is where Darkseid has made his stand. And, we get, this whole multiverse aspect of this book has been absolutely phenomenal. Williamson's been killing it. The Justice Incarnate stuff has been dope. The Justice Society of America stuff has been dope. And Darkseid is arguably probably the most fearsome villain in DC Comics. Definitely one of the best. And he's in my top 2, for sure. And, he's got Roy, he's calling his Omega Lantern here. Shit's just getting crazy in this. And, as you go on, the Justice Society is trying to save Roy and get him out of the darkness, right? And I think it's kind of interesting that this Black Lantern ring is done so differently than it's ever been done before. He's not dead, he's alive, but he still has the fucking ring. So it's interesting to see. And he even calls him an Omega Lantern. He's not saying a Black Lantern. He's got the Omega symbol that's tied with Darkseid. So we don't really know like what is going to happen from that. Obviously, we have Machine Head. He's going against the Justice Incarnate with his Injustice Incarnate, and just looking like Tony Stark, but all fucked up. I mean, I don't know how else to say it. You know what I mean? Like a little bit of Tony Stark mixed with Deadpool with the way his face looks. Fighting Thomas Wayne, and there's a line right here. Because Thomas Wayne is naming off Dick, Jason, Tim, Stephanie, Cass, Duke, Damian, right? And Machine is asking him, what do you realize? Like, they're the name of my son's children, and I failed them before. I might not matter, but they do, and I will do everything in my power to protect them. So would you just shut up and put up a real fight already? Like, the dialogue in here is just, it's fantastic. And I won't give away too much more. I'll kind of just flip through a little bit, show you guys what's going on. Obviously, some crazy shit's going down. Big ass explosion. Eventually, Roy is free from the ring. Got the Justice Society standing up here. We got the Injustice Incarnate. Psycho Pirate is disappearing, saying I'm needed in another event. So it's obvious that this is all leading up to something else Darkseid's doing his thing. Fucking annihilates Machine Head. This whole thing about the way the multiverse is affecting the world because everybody is in the know, that has been probably the most interesting aspect. You know, this leans really heavy into it. And I think everything in comics right now is talking about the multiverse. We have the What If show on Disney Plus for Marvel, right? Marvel's even doing a version of this type of team multiverse all this crossover stuff. I think it's Avengers Forever is going to be coming out by Jason Aaron. He's in the free comic book day that's leading up to Avengers 50. Like they're talking about it. The Doctor Strange movie, Multiverse of Madness, the new Spider-Man movie coming out. The multiverse. I don't think I've heard that word, that term, more than I have in the past like year and a half, in terms of comic books, comic book related stuff, and I'm fucking hyped for it. I know Dylan is probably just as hyped as I am. I think this stuck the landing. I love the ending of it. We touch base on, you know, the totality, that team that's on the satellite circling the Earth with, you know, like Lex Luthor, Hawk Girl, and Vandal Savage, stuff like that. We have Checkmate here, all the characters that have been in that book. Chase talking about how it really fucks with her head in terms of like, oh, what if there's a better version of me? And which one's the bad version? Extract, right? Was the bad version. That's a spoiler from the last one. She talks about on how Earth Omega, she's like, but what if there's a great version of Cameron Chase in the multiverse, and that's me? I think that's it's a dope line. I think I want to see more of Cameron Chase. I want to see more Roy, obviously. Roy Harper is one of my favorite characters in DC. You know, and now we're going to see. He's going to go find his daughter. Hopefully we get this resolved soon. Hopefully there's another Green Arrow book coming out. Maybe that we'll get a Roy Harper miniseries. I don't know. I'm excited to see, though, what's going to spring from here. All of Kirby's creations with the New Gods, the Fourth World stuff, it's very evident in here. And I'm excited more than I have been in a long time about a DC event. This is, I mean, right here. If this doesn't say it, The Great Darkness, a little story called The Great Darkness Saga with Legion of Superheroes, that is really awesome. Considered a classic with DC. Highly recommend you guys go check that out. Probably some hints of stuff to come, I'm assuming. Williamson loves to pull from old stories while making it feel fresh. He loves all of DC history, and it's so evident, especially with this series, but every book he's written. And now he's taken over Batman. Super stoked for that. We have a little epilogue with Barry. And on the next page, pretty heavy spoiler. Now's the time to skip. Don't listen. Multiverse 2? I mean, I don't even know what this means. What's going on? We got Pariah, Crisis on Infinite Earths. Barry is disappearing and ending up in a world with his entire family, Tornado Twins, Iris, Wally in his Kid Flash costume, Jay and Joan Garrick, Earth Flash 1. I don't know what that means, but fuck, I need to know. I can't wait. Fucking excited for it. You didn't pick up this miniseries, you know there's a trade coming. Pick up the trade. Pick up the single issues. This was an excellent series for DC. And it's only getting better because we got a Justice Incarnate coming out soon that Williams is going to co-write. And this is going to be leading into 2022. So thinking maybe summer event. I'm thinking that's what we're going to lead into. We're going to have 6 months of Justice Incarnate, which will take us into almost the spring, I think, once that book launches. So definitely be on the lookout for that, and go pick up Infinite Frontier. Next up, we are going to talk Excellence 11. Weird issue for me to kind of jump in and talk about because it's in the middle of a story. And to be honest with you, it had been some time since issue 10 came out. So I kind of forgot a little bit of what happened in that issue. But this is probably one of my favorite series coming out. Not probably, it is. It's one of my favorite series coming out. Brandon Thomas, Kari Randolph, Emilio Lopez, absolutely killing it. Reason it's taken so long, they touch on it in the letters pages too. Their career is blowing up, and it's all thanks to this book. Dylan and I have been singing the praises of this book since the Comic Lounge was just a website where we would write reviews, do written articles, interviews, stuff like that. And since we've expanded to the podcast and the YouTube channel, we have done so much coverage on this book. They had a successful Kickstarter for the hardcover that has, I believe, the first 9 issues. Don't quote me on that. I could be wrong. But easily one of the dopest books out, by far. And the reason we picked this book is because anytime a new issue comes out, especially if there's been a gap, Dylan and I love to talk about it. This is, of all the comics I'm talking about today, this is the one I really wish he was here to share with me. But I'm probably just I didn't want to ignore the book, so I'm just going to flip through it, show you guys some stuff, talk a little bit about it. Maybe if you haven't checked this book out, you go pick up the first volume. It's definitely worth your money. It is, it's visually, it is just stunning. And the writing is absolutely like mastercraft writing. Brandon Thomas, Kari Randolph, and Emilio Lopez have put they're all into this book. Every page just, this book's a 10 out of 10. By the way, Infinite Frontier, 10 out of 10. Excellence 11, 10 out of 10. Maybe not a great jumping on point, but like I said, I'm not going to ignore a new issue of Excellence anytime it comes out because it's definitely one of my favorite Image books. Probably my favorite Image book right now. So, this is all about the ages, right? And Spencer Dales is the main character of this. He is seeking to take out the ages, right? There's 10 families. As you can see here, we have some of them on fire. He's trying to fucking take down this, what is corrupt magic society that protects people, right? And there's all sorts of rules. I skipped over that, but these are the 4 rules. Protection and defense of the undeserving is not allowed. Creation of a magician's wand without permission is not allowed. The casting of spells without an approved wand is not allowed. And the use of magic by females is not allowed. This last one's very interesting. They touched on it already. There are women in these families that are able to use magic, and we've seen it happen. And some really dope characters. I mean, there was in the Skybound, right? I think Dylan and I talked about it there with the Skybound issue. We had a little teaser of some stuff in there. I can't sing the praises high enough. It's amazing. I mean, the coloring, the fighting, the action. Spencer Dales is one of the dopest characters in comic books, by far. I love his personality. He has the anger issues going against his dad, so you got that family dynamic. Just really fucking awesome. And he is going into this town. He's breaking through a barrier, right? We're seeing him jump through the air. He lands. And we meet this mysterious woman. First time we're meeting her. And, she's asking him about if he needs help. He lies about who he is. He says Aaron Mills. Anybody that reads this book knows that it's not him. Why is he lying? We're not sure yet, right? Talks about looking for Amari Dales. Who is that? And it happens to be his aunt. So we're learning, now we're meeting a new member of the Dales family, seeing his dad, Raymond Dales, and what he's up to, going after multiple people that had been helping Spencer. Like I said, if you're not reading this, this is not the great jumping on point. But definitely go pick this book up if you haven't already. And I'm sure that the single issues aren't that hard to come across either. And I mean, any dope comic book shop is going to have this in stock. Guarantee. So we learn more about Raymond and really what he has been doing behind the scenes. We're learning it from his sister's mouth, right? Telling Spencer. So we're learning a little bit of stuff that, while his dad comes across like a fucking asshole and has for the majority of this series, we're learning that maybe he wasn't always that way. Let me tell you, the aunt, dope as fuck. I love the character design. I think she's an interesting addition into the family, and she's going to be a different viewpoint for Spencer that he hasn't seen before. He's going to get some inside baseball info from her that he hasn't known, and he's been hating his dad for years, and he has become pretty fucking powerful just what we're gonna see take place, it's gonna be dope. I mean, look at this fucking, the art is just crazy. Kari Randolph is doing the best work of his career. And that's saying something because all of his stuff has been dope from day one. So I won't get too much more into it. I feel like I've kind of repeated myself, but whatever. Book's dope, man. This scene right here, won't spoil it for people that are reading the book but haven't picked up this issue yet. Some dope stuff, man. And I have to shout this out right here. The letters pages, awesome. Always, if you're reading this book, make sure you check this out. I mean, they even talk about how it's been a long time between the pandemic, the Kickstarter, and managing their careers that have skyrocketed. Like I said right before I jumped into this issue, no full disclosure, man. Like, they're honest with you. You know what I mean? Like, they're just busy. The pandemic, it's a crazy world out there right now. And I love listening. I love reading other people's responses to the series and how it's affecting them. This has been an important book for me from day one, and I hope I hope myself and Dylan have turned more people onto this book, because it really is a quality comic. It's a very fresh type of story. It's got some familiarity, like, the father-son, dynamic of like, oh, I hate my dad, but it's so much deeper than that. And surface level, it's about like, oh, we're taking, it's a magic, basically not a corporation, but it's some like really powerful group, right? And trying to take it down. But that's surface. And what the stories, the family dynamic, the friendship dynamics, everything in here is really what keeps me coming back, what keeps Dylan coming back. And Brandon talks about issue 12. There's a scene in there he wrote that's going to blow people away. And I, for one, will be here. I will be talking about it on here, and Dylan will be here with me too. Dylan, if you're listening to this, you better fucking talk issue 12 with me. But that's it. That's excellence. Now let's talk about Kazar, Lord of the Savage Land, complete with a Deadpool 30 Liefeld cover. Because I'm a Liefeld fan. If you're not, sorry, not my problem. But I like what I like, and I'm not ashamed to talk about it. So, Kazar, we picked on a whim last week when we decided we were going to talk about it. Kind of like when we wanted to talk about Darkhawk. We weren't really sure. I didn't really dig the book. Dylan wasn't super impressed with it, so we ended up talking about it. I feel like Dylan would have dug this book and would have been down to talk about it, and I did dig it, and I want to talk about it with you guys and kind of share my thoughts. Kazar, kind of like the Tarzan type of character, right? Like, grew up in the jungle, was left in the savage land, which is dinosaurs, all sorts of crazy shit, right? It's definitely tied in with X-Men lore. But this is interesting because I haven't really been up on Kazar for a while. I've read the old Mark Waid stuff where he was, I believe it like took place in New York, so away from the Savage Land. He's married to Shauna, Queen of the Jungle. We kind of learn a little, this is a good entry point into the character if you're not really familiar with him. It touches back on, when he was a kid. And, he's having a nightmare, and I guess in Empire Avengers, he died, but then he came back and he has some sort of powers. So I'm going to try I don't really want to spoil too much of this because I feel like going in blind made me enjoy it a little bit more because I didn't know I had no expectations going into this book. Kazar is not a character where I'm like, oh man, yeah, I can't wait to read that book. But I have always been like a fan of Tarzan, that type of story. Kazar, I have read when he's had a series, which is kind of rare. But I definitely wanted to pick this book up, And, fuck, I forgot to read the credits. So let's get to the credits real quick. Perfect. Zach Thompson's writer. Jermaine Garcia is the artist. Matthias Lopez, colorist. Joe Caramagna is the letter. It even gives you a brief little thing to kind of like let you know like what happened, right? So he died in Empire. He's got some powers. I guess the same thing had happened to Shauna before. Like, I don't know. At some point, like I really like. I wish I read the stories so that I knew and I could kind of elaborate more on it, but I'm not 100% sure. And it's interesting to see what her powers are. talking about how she can feel rain patterning the soil away, miles away, and how he talks about how he can hear everything. She even, like, what's really a trip is she creates a living outfit out of a sentient, like, fungus bacteria that will adapt to their environment around it. I mean, it's pretty cool. I mean, this is a pretty interesting story, and the art is phenomenal. I really dig this art. I'm not really too familiar with Jermaine Garcia, but I like it a lot. I think it's really good, and who doesn't love fucking dinosaurs in their comics, man? This is Kazar and Shauna's son, Matthew. So this is the first time, I didn't even know they had a kid, so this is the first time I'm seeing him. But, you know, really cool, and there's like this weird fucking alien coming out the dinosaur, and Kazar and Shauna like jump in to save him, and you can like see like even on his arms like some weird stuff like starts happening, man, and saying that he feels stronger than ever, like he's finally alive again. I mean, it's really. I hope they elaborate more on this, and we get to kind of like learn about his powers and why he got the powers, because why does him dying create that? Why did Shauna dying create the powers? It doesn't. Is it because they live in the Savage Land? Like, I mean, I'm intrigued to learn more about that. Got their son saying like how they care more about the Savage Land than him. Didn't notice this, and I love that they don't want him running off on his own. You know, what if they imagine if the High Evolutionary came back or the Avengers came blasting through? And, you know, he's rebelling against them, and I didn't notice this on the first read, but there's some sort of like technology in terms of like mixed with nature, and you know he's laying here and he's talking to somebody, talking about how he's sorry he didn't check in sooner. They act like, and he's talking about his parents, how they act like they own the place, but they're both hypocrites. Mom's American, dad's British. Talking about like, can you even believe that my last name is literally Plunder? It's a sick joke. I've lived here my whole life, and they're telling me I don't know this place. So this mystery of, you know, what's going on? Why is there this technology? Like even on the bird, you're seeing it, and then we get like the fucking reveal, polyscion, right? That is the same thing that was like inside the plant that was attached to his arm. So I'm excited to see like where this goes. Like, what is this technology that's mixing with the nature of the Savage Land, and how that's going to play into, you know, Kazar and why he has powers, why Shauna has powers. I think it's a solid 8. You know, definitely the surprise of the week for me. And you know, real quick, since this is the only Marvel book I'm talking about, I definitely like this story by John Romita Jr., Joe Quesada. You know, kind of touching back on 9/11, and you know that story that came out in Amazing Spider-Man 36 shortly after 9/11. Just very powerful story. Wordless for the most part, you know, not a lot of dialogue. This double-page spread of Cap and Spidey looking over New York, and just you can see Peter underneath, even with the mask on, the way he holds his face, and you can see the torment and the sadness in him. And asking Cap, did you know anyone? And Cap simply responding, every single one of them. It's powerful. I believe that they're going to do multiple stories throughout the month, or I think throughout September, so we're going to get different ones. I know that this particular one was in all the Marvel books this week. But yeah, Kazar was dope. I'd recommend it. Definitely worth picking up, you know? Definitely a fun comic, and it gave me enough to make me want to come back next month. Now, let's talk about my favorite book, Mazebook. Only one name I need to read off this, Jeff Lemire. This book, I don't think I can do it justice. So I am going to tell you basically what Jeff Lemire says at the end of this book. Talks about how one night Will, who's the main character of this book, you know, he gets a phone call from his long-lost daughter. And she tells him she's in the center of the maze and he has to come find her. The phone call is going to send Will off his path. He'll veer away from his routine and start tracing mysterious maze through the city and through his memories, trying to find the impossible. That simple paragraph. Now, there's more. I definitely highly recommend you guys reading everything, because it kind of elaborates on Lemire's thoughts in creating this, and you know, some of his inspirations in terms of like creatives like David Lynch This just might be a Lemire masterpiece in the making. It, like I said, this is all about his daughter, and he talks about all he can see is the sweater. He can't see her anymore. All he can think of is that, this ratty, holes in it, and how the mom, couldn't stand it. It smelled like mothballs. Honestly, he doesn't even know where it came from, and how Elena, his wife, kept trying to throw it out, but Wendy would find it in the trash and rescue it. And then we jump, and he's talking about it, and he's just like sitting there in his head. And Lemire, when he does the writing and art on a book, you have the most singular vision of a creative, and not just Lemire, any writer, artist, any cartoonist. You're going to get exactly what's in their head, because they're not trying to convey it to a second party and getting their interpretation of what the writer is trying to say. And I think that that's why, in this particular comic, it's not heavy with dialogue. It's not heavy with, narration. It just takes us, through this day with this man who's missing his daughter. As you go on, you see it's been 10 years. Saying how he's forgotten something, and it's not just her face. And we see this red marker, and this is where we start to see, and this starts to take place throughout, right? Like, this is him following the maid. And I think that this story of him losing his daughter, we don't know how. We don't know why what happened to her, whether she could have got, I don't think she got murdered, but like she could have got murdered, right? Or she could have died of a disease, or she could have gotten kidnapped. A number of things that we just don't know. And I think that kind of adds to the mystery of the book, and really it connects you to Will in a way that you feel for this guy, and you can, like, I can't even imagine being in his shoes. I have a daughter, and I can't imagine like her going before me. Like, no parent should have to lose a child. Just seeing his face and how much it affects him, and how he's talking about how he goes to this room in his head that only he can see on rare occasions, right? And it's where the memories of her live, and it's all he has left. It's so like this part too. It's like, I can't, like, obviously, like, the longer somebody goes, there's always pictures, right? You can always look at a picture of somebody that's passed, but somebody that you see on a regular basis, like, you think about them and their face is instantly in your head. But what about 10 years has gone by, and you're not able to just call upon that memory and see that person, especially somebody that you love, somebody that was your whole life. It's just, this is a very powerful story. I'm not going to tell you guys much more. I will just kind of, flip through to show you the art. I love the ink wash about it. This even jumps, now it's 11 years, right? So still, every memory he has, he sees her, but without a face, until he gets that call. And this is the call that he keeps getting, and he finally answers it, and it's his daughter. This is an experience. This is a book that, often Dylan and I will talk about a comic book that you need to just experience. There's nothing I can say that could ever do it justice. Writing and art are phenomenal. Jeff Lemire is one of the best creators, cartoonists that we have working in comics right now. He's in my top 5 creatives. Anytime he does a book, I'm buying it. I don't even read the descriptions anymore. That's the type of faith I have in Jeff Lemire, and this book delivered on so many different levels. It's a very powerful story, and it leaves you with something where you want to know more. You want to see what is going to come next. So this is a 10 out of 10. This wasn't a book we were going to talk about. I would have told Dylan if I probably would have just shared a little bit of my thoughts, maybe a little bit briefer, but I am glad I could talk about it with you guys. So these are the books that I think all of you should go check out, go pick up phenomenal. Another great week of comics. Maybe I will talk about what Dylan and I may talk about next week. Well, no surprise here. Primordial, another Jeff Lemire book. Talk about that. Eternals, Thanos Rises, Fantastic 435. And if there's anything else that Dylan maybe wants to read. So we're going to read Fantastic 435, Eternals, Thanos Rises, and Primordial #1. So that's all I got. Hopefully Dylan will return with me next week and we can talk about those books. Definitely go pick up these books. Again, Infinite Frontier Excellence 11, Kazar, Lord of the Savage Land #1, and Mazebook #1. All awesome books. And if you're not already following us, make sure you follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at The Comic Lounge. Follow Dylan at The Dillbot on Instagram. And Dillbot is dope on Twitter. Make sure you like, follow, subscribe. Hit that bell icon so you're notified every time a new vid goes up. And hit that TeePublic link. Also, get some Comic Lounge merch. And on that note, I'm out.